There are two kinds of suffering in life. It's often said the suffering we can't really do a lot about, and the extra resistance and grief and stress that we bring to it. I can't create a world where there are no unpleasant sounds or no unpleasant bodily sensations. But I can work on that reaction to it. That should be like that, shouldn't be happening, can't bear it kind of approach. The third foundation is mindfulness of mind states. We could perhaps also translate that as emotions or moods, really. Moods is much everyday English. One of my teachers has a nice phrase which I like to copy really, but he says, "You're always in the mood." And obviously, when we usually use that, that's a kind of shorthand way of saying you're always in a bad mood. Yeah. But from this perspective, you're always in the mood, and you might be in a good mood, you might be in a wonderful mood, but you're always in the mood. There's always some kind of mental state, some kind of filter, if you like, that is there with the experience. But sometimes we may feel that we're directly in contact with reality, but it's perhaps more accurate to say that we are in contact with reality as it appears to this kind of mind. To mention the example I gave yesterday of putting away the waste food. The waste food. We might think this is an inherently a disgusting thing to do, to put away all of this. That's how it really is. But that experience is also created by the particular mind that breeds that. I don't know if you notice that. I mean, I have neighbours that play music sometimes, and my response to that is very different different times. If I'm, not feeling in a particularly good mood, it's like, how dare they, and why are they doing that? And I've got to move, and can't live in this house anymore. And when I'm not feeling like that, it's like, oh, okay, they're playing that again. Sometimes I might even start to enjoy that, even that time as well. Okay, they're introducing me to the latest music or something. I was thinking I'm getting this for free, because other people have to pay for this stuff. But again, so the experience is very much coloured by what else is happening in the mind. So we bring mindfulness to boredom, restlessness, joy, sadness, irritation, wanting, aversion, fear, excitement, the whole spectrum of mind states.
What about thoughts? Is it part of this? No?
Yes, it is.
The mind,
Thoughts are a very good clue to the mind state that's present. Okay? So when I talk about mind states or emotion, that's a little bit more subtle to notice. But a really good way of checking in what kind of mind state is present or what kind of mood is present is the thoughts. Yeah? So to give you an example, once I remember reporting to one of my meditation teachers, I was doing walking meditation, and that I'd had this thought, I've had a really good year, that thought arose. And she was saying, oh, okay, that's the mind with some degree of rapture and enthusiasm, some degree of uplift, but those kind of thoughts. Obviously thoughts of, why did they do that to me, or that was so awful, or and those thoughts may go back years. Those kind of thoughts are showing, a different quality of the mind set. So it's a really good point, actually. The thoughts are a good clue to the mind state that's present. So I mentioned this way that the mind can shape our reality. So a lovely way of thinking about that, which I suspect you've heard before, but it's really good, is this idea of wearing coloured glasses. So some people who are particularly optimistic are accused of seeing the world through rose-coloured spectacles. But again, if we take this idea that we're always in a mood, we're always seeing the world through particular coloured spectacles. Yeah. So bringing attention to mind states is really being aware of that, and there's a huge world of difference there. And I began to explore this yesterday, but the difference between believing the story that an angry state of mind tells us about the world and recognizing that there's an angry state of mind there is huge. Yeah. Huge. So An angry state of mind is one that, you know, is obviously going to focus on faults of others, yet generally has a strong sense of being right attached to it. But when you notice that that's there, when you're aware that that's there, it gives you the freedom to think about how to respond. You're not necessarily believing that that story is an absolute truth. And I don't mean to go the other way, to say that story's got no validity at all. I'm not claiming that. Or that the angry thoughts aren't a message, that something needs to be looked at. Again, that's also true. But it's not believing the whole thing. It's not believing the whole thing as a kind of absolute. One of my main trainings over the last few years has been the email training. You've done. I won't ask you to say now, but I would be interested to know if none of you ever sent an email that you later regret. I mean, wonderful if you managed to do that. I had a particular time when, you know, I used to kind of, you know, something's happened and you think, right, I've got to send an email. You send this email and you think, oh, I'm toning it down, you know, I'm saying it. And then you sort of send this thing off. And you know, often is that the kind of email that really helps. Yeah, just be careful with our speech and writing and things like that. And again, you know, this isn't some kind of ban on sending emails that have any elements of kind of challenge or complaint to them. And you know, there are times to do that, but that it's clearly very different. It's just a good general common sense practice sometimes. When you feel like that, it's so urgent that things got to be said. You know, you can write the email and then save it in your drafts. You know, so we begin to separate that processing of that emotional response with what is really a wise thing to do. You know? We're not so reactive; we're more responsive. And this mindfulness of mind states, I think, is about doing that. There's a fearful state present. There's a sad state present. There's a happy state present. There's a very excitable state present. I mean, those kind of states too can get us very lost at times if we're not aware of them. You know, those the state, everything's so wonderful, and I'm doing this yoga training, and I'm gonna give up my job today. You know, I might be X amount of £1,000 in debt already, but I don't mind. I'm gonna just go for it. You know, that those kind of very, very up states of mind also have a kind of delusional element to them. You know? So just kind of knowing that there's a mind state that's really exciting. And again, not something to put that down or not to use some of the wonderful energy that can come from those kind of inspirations, but just knowing that, okay, this is how the mind feels through a very inspired state. Because if we're not doing that, we just get in these repetitious cycles, and again, these philosophies, as you know, talk about birth, death, rebirth, birth, death, rebirth, and we can see this happening in this life. You know, how many things have you felt so inspired about? This is so wonderful, and I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, and then, okay, it's kind of hard, and then, how do I get involved in that? And then, but this is the thing now, and we're off doing that. This is the thing. So that ability to sustain commitment through that cycle